Hi guys, welcome to this month's Stitch Study Stitch tutorial, and this month we're going to be looking at a variation of the ripple stitch. So it's called, I've named this the ridged ripple stitch, and hopefully you'll give it a try, and it creates this beautiful chunky texture. Okay, so this beautiful stitch is a variation of the ripple stitch, which I've called the ridged ripple stitch, because we're going to be using some front post stitches instead. But if you are new to crochet or you struggle a little bit with front post stitches, then just work into the stitches as normal and you'll get the traditional ripple stitch. But we're going to grab some yarn. And I just happen to be using a chunky, bulky weight yarn. So it's a yarn weight of 5. And with that, I'm using a 5mm crochet hook, but you can use any yarn and hook that you like. So let's begin. We're going to start off with a little slip knot, and you want to initially work to a unit of 3. So to get the length of your project, work to the 3 times table to begin. So I'm just going to do a small swatch and do 1, 2, 3. Then another 3, 1, 2, and 3. Then another 3, 1, 2, and 3. Then maybe another 3, 1, 2, and 3. And once you've got your unit of 3, you then want to add an extra chain for the actual maths to work for this stitch. And because we're working normal chains at the beginning, we want to add another chain. So after your unit of 3, you just add 2 chains. But the reason I separate the 2 chains into one and then another one is because if you had foundation chain stitches, or you already had stitches you're working into, you only need a unit of 3 plus 1. So it's only because we got the normal chains at the beginning, we're adding an extra one. So these extra 2 at the end after your unit of 3. Then what we want to do is we want to work into our second chain from our hook. So we don't count the loop on our hook. There's our first chain, there's our second. I'm going to go into there and we're going to do a single crochet to begin. Then we're going to do 2 double crochet in there as well. So this pattern's in US terminology. So in UK terminology, that's going to be a double crochet and 2 trebles. Okay, but in US terms, it's a single crochet and 2 double crochet in your second chain from your hook. Then what we want to do is we want to skip 2 stitches. So we skip 1, skip 2. Then in the next chain, we do the same stitches again. So going to do a single crochet to begin, then 2 double crochet. Pull through 2. Pull through 2 and another one in the same chain. Okay, so all 3 stitches are in the same chain. Then we repeat that again. We skip 2, 1, 2. Then in the next chain, we do the same stitches again, single crochet and 2 double crochet. 1 and 2. And just repeat that all the way to the last stitch. So we skip 2, 1, 2. Then in the next chain, do a single crochet and 2 double crochet. 1 and 2. And then when you get to the last 3 chains, you want to skip 2. And the very last chain, we're just going to do a single crochet. So just 1 single crochet at the end. Okay, so no double crochets. So that's your first row after your chains. And then what we're going to do is some front post stitches. We're going to start off with a little chain 1. Don't count that as a stitch, just ignore that. And we're going to turn our work, and we're going to do the same group of stitches, so a single crochet and 2 double crochet, but we're going to turn them into front post stitches. So to do that, at the very, very beginning, we need to go to the right hand side of this stitch and go into that previous single crochet, the first stitch, from the back. So you're coming this direction, and bring that yarn through and do a single crochet. And your work always kind of wants to twist down like this at the very beginning, so it might actually be easier for you to effectively do the next 2 stitches by just going into the stitch in this direction. So do 2 double crochet which ends up being the same thing. So if I flip it back this way, you can see that you come to the right hand side, come from the back, grab the yarn. So you're just working into that stitch in this direction. So 2 double crochet as well. But let's turn our work back in this direction. And we want to skip the next 2 stitches, but we're going to go into the second skipped stitch from the front and come through the 3rd stitch, the next one along, which is your previous single crochet, from the back. So kind of what we did at the very beginning. We're going to do the same stitches again, but if you notice, you're catching a little bit of yarn, this like bar of yarn here, which is good to remember because it's easier to find than trying to find the stitches again after your first stitch. So we're going to do our single crochet, so bring the yarn under there, do a single crochet, then our 2 double crochet, but it's much easier just to find that bar rather than the stitches. It's essentially the same thing, so just do 2 double crochet under that bar. 1 and 2. Because you're working quite a few front post stitches. Okay, and then we repeat that all the way across. So we skip 2, but in the second skip stitch, we go into that second one and then come into the 3rd stitch from the back. And then just give it a wiggle and you can find that bar appearing. Bring the yarn under the bar, do a single crochet and 2 double crochet under the bar as well. And that's essentially a front post stitch. So 2 double crochet front post stitches and do that all the way to the last stitch. So we skip 2, but in the second one we go into the second one, then go into the next stitch from the back, give it a little wiggle, just find that bar, bring the yarn underneath the bar, do a single crochet, then 2 double crochet. 1 and 2. Then when you get to the last 3 stitches, we skip 2, go into the second one, and then the very last one, which kind of ends up almost vertical, you can see it there, we come through that stitch from the back, then find your little bar, there it is, and we're going to do just 1 single crochet. Just the 1 single crochet. And there we go, that is our next row, and this is the row we need to repeat over and over. But if you do struggle doing front post stitches, just work into this previous single crochets, which is the 3rd stitch, as normal, and you'll just have the normal traditional ripple stitch. Okay, so we're going to chain 1 and turn, and I'll just show you that row again so you can really grasp the stitch. And at the beginning, so what we need to do is come to the right hand side and then go into that first stitch from the back. So which is effectively, you could just turn it this way and just work into the stitch from this direction. It's essentially the same thing. So it's much easier just doing this way at the beginning. So single crochet, 2 double crochet. So it's much more easy to visualize doing it this way, but then move your work back and these kind of end up twisting over on themselves, which looks nice. Then we go back to skipping the next 2, but in the second one we go into the second one and then go into the 3rd one from the back, and then just pull these apart, find that bar, work under the bar with a single crochet and 2 double crochet, and again just repeat that up to the last stitch under that bar. Get some more yarn. So again, we skip 2, but we go into the second one, come into the 3rd one from the back, just find that bar, come under there. You'll start feeling it after a while, should be easy to find. Single crochet, 2 double crochet, but this is a little bit more advanced, so for beginners I would definitely just work on the traditional ripple stitch to begin with and practice working on front post stitches, especially groups of front post stitches, then coming back to this stitch. Okay, so we skip 2 into the next stitch, come from the back, find that bar and do single crochet, 2 double crochet, or a double crochet and 2 trebles in UK terms. It's 1 and 2. And then when we get to the end, we do just the 1 single crochet front post stitch. We skip 2, go into the second, and then come from the back into that very last stitch. And find that bar and just work a single crochet. And there we go, we've just repeated that second row again. So there we go, that's the ridged ripple stitch, and the next row you would just do exactly the same thing again, over and over and over. And you can see it here again, worked in a thinner yarn. So this is a sport baby weight yarn, and I used a 3mm crochet hook, I think, for this. This is the book swatch for my patrons. We're working on a crochet along where we're creating some book swatches of a sort of stitch library, a visual textured stitch library. So yeah, and there we go. That's it worked in a chunky yarn. It's a beautiful stitch. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope you managed to follow along. And if you did struggle with the front post stitch, then obviously you can work into your stitches as normal and you'll just end up with a traditional ripple stitch. But hopefully you'll give it a try. And don't forget to follow me on Patreon as well, because every month with your stitch, I design an exclusive pattern that uses the stitch. And this month is my Japanese knot bag, so which uses the ridged ripple stitch. And it's available over on Patreon, so don't forget to check me out over there. And a huge thank you to my current patrons for all your support. I really appreciate your support. But I will see you soon for some more crochet crafting fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.